to another episode of Women in Focus, and our woman in focus today is an amazing woman. That word amazing was just made for her. Her name is Anita Hubberman, and she is our woman in focus today. You're most welcome in our program. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Shushma. Thanks for having me.
Now, we've done an interview with you before, but many, many moons ago, right? And the Anita from that time and Anita right now has evolved a lot. And I have known you as the CEO of Surrey Board of Trade, and then you just made this shocking announcement saying you're no longer going to be the CEO. What is the reason behind that?
Well, when you turn 50, 51, you just start taking a look at the next 20 to 25 years of your life.
Yes.
And my mom had a heart attack 2 years ago. And, you know, I just started to think about the future. And I've been with the organization, with the Surrey Board of Trade, Shushma, for 31 years.
Wow.
I started when I was 19 years old as a summer student, worked 1 day a week. And then my summers, you know, they helped me pay for my tuition at Simon Fraser University because I needed to find a way to pay for my tuition. But that education, that experience that I had, you know, I'll never forget the Surrey Board of Trade. But you know what? It's time for the next chapter of my life.
Yes.
I have a good 20 to 25 years left in me.
100%, maybe more.
Yes, and so we will see what the future holds.
Lovely. When you have an attitude like that and a vision like that, you know, you always come up with something beautiful. And I know that many people have said, we can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next. So all our eyes are on you, Anita. Let me take you back. You talked about your mom. Your mom has worked very hard to bring you and your brother up. Let's talk a little bit about that. When did you come? Were you born here?
I was.
And so how was it?
Well, I have to say, and I know you can relate, is my mom is my role model.
Yes.
So she came to this country when she was 19. And coincidentally, I started at the Surrey Board of Trade when I was 19. She came to this country. She didn't speak a word of English. She came with my dad, of course, to Alberta. My dad was a pulp and paper chemist.
Okay.
And a year later, I was born. And then we moved to Prince George, another pulp and paper mill town.
Right.
And my mom, you know, she, without telling my dad, she learned how to speak English.
Yeah.
So she took herself through a variety of courses. She got a part-time job at McDonald's.
Right.
And then she started going to college, the local community college, taking bookkeeping courses and many other self-improvement courses, floral, cooking, you name it, she did it. And I was young at the time, not really realizing the importance of what she was doing in her own life. But my dad found out. He wasn't really impressed at the time, but understood later that, you know, she needed to be a woman on her own terms.
Yes.
She couldn't just be a housewife. She needed ways to contribute back to the community and to her professional life. And she's a smart lady. And I learned a lot from her. And what I learned is that you have to persevere in the face of great adversity. And we weren't a wealthy family, you know, and we were a middle-class family. And we had to fight for absolutely everything. And my mom and my dad and my brother, you know, we moved to Vancouver in 1984.
Oh, wow.
And so basically, you know, I went to school here, I went to university here. And but my mom was always there by my side.
Right.
And we faced different levels of adversity, like any family.
Yeah. And discrimination to a certain extent as well.
Yes, absolutely. And she faced discrimination, and you know, so many stories of, you know, people talking behind your back. But, you know, she went from job to job, you know, 3 years here, 4 years here as an accountant, but finally found her place as CFO for Langara College's Student Union.
Wow.
And, but, you know, during it all, she was raising myself, she was raising my brother, and it was a hard life.
Truly a role model for sure.
Yes.
I mean, for a person who just came here and educated herself
Yes.
by herself,
Yes.
looking after her two kids.
Yes.
This is amazing. No wonder you are the way you are.
Yes, I mean, I have also faced adversity. You know, when I applied for the top job at the Surrey Board of Trade,
Right.
I was only 32.
Yes.
And that's unheard of
No.
in our industry. There's 430 chambers of commerce, boards of trades in Canada. And to be young, a female, South Asian, I was the first South Asian
That's right.
CEO of a board of trade chamber of commerce in Canada.
Yeah.
And so I had to reinvigorate the brand. I had to rebuild, you know, what people knew me for.
Yes.
I had to work, you know, 12, 14 hours a day.
I'm not surprised.
And even more than that. And I would say that I'm leaving the Surrey Board of Trade in a great position.
Yes.
I've left a great legacy. And now it's time for a new era to
Yes.
begin.
Well, when you took over Surrey Board of Trade, the vision behind it was yours, and you have taken in a totally diverse and a very important position. Surrey Board of Trade is looked upon with a lot of pride
Yes.
by people who are members of the. And was Surrey the place where you guys grew up and lived, or did you move there later?
It was Surrey.
It was
Surrey in 1984.
Yeah. So Surrey wasn't that developed in 1984 when your parents
No.
decided to move there. So Surrey has seen huge growth, hasn't it?
Yes.
And when you are in commerce and you look at the growth, you have to have vision as to how you're going to get the community involved in it. I'm going to ask you more questions about that, but let's take a very short commercial break and come back.
Sure.
Anita Hubberman is our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus today is Anita Hubberman. So Anita, Surrey, the fastest growing municipality in Canada. When you were the CEO of Surrey Board of Trade, you must have every year felt new challenges coming your way. Can we talk a little bit about that?
So when I became CEO, the Surrey Board of Trade wasn't known as an economic development entrepreneurial center.
Yeah.
It wasn't the go-to place for politicians to seek advice on different policy.
Right.
And so again, as I mentioned, I had to reinvigorate that brand.
Right.
So our whole, otherwise known as a strategic plan, I call it an action plan,
Right.
was really ensuring that we're focused on city building activities. So government advocacy, instigating change at the different levels of government
Right.
on all issues, ensuring
From civic to provincial to federal.
and regional government as well. But I wanted to make sure that we took a look at arts and culture.
Right.
We took a look at housing, education, childcare. All of those issues back then in 2007 when I became CEO were not known as economic issues.
Wow.
They were not known as economic development issues.
Wow.
And now we know that arts and culture, childcare, all of those housing, education pieces are the foundations of city building. And so I was able to create projects, initiatives, government advocacy, speak on those pieces from an economic lens, even in the face of great adversity to politicians
Yes.
and different governments of the day that didn't agree with me. But now we know today that childcare is absolute economic policy, that you need a vibrant arts and culture community,
Yep.
multicultural community, to bring us together so we can learn about each other and move forward together.
Do you think because you are of a different background and not quote unquote Caucasian, that you were able to do all that and you had that vision, whereas other board of trades, whether they are in Vancouver or elsewhere, do not have that cohesive way of moving forward?
Well, I don't know if that's the reason. You know, I come from a different lens, of course.
Yes.
You know, based upon my childhood.
Yeah.
And everything that surrounded me. You know, I believe in Surrey, as I mentioned, it's being an opportunity city.
Right.
And we have a lot to be proud of. And, you know, I come from that lens because I take risks, even when people don't agree with me. And in the end, people will, I know, because I know I'm right. And as long as you're confident in that as a woman, then you can persevere and move forward.
And women are another aspect that you have been very focused on. And you do, there are a lot of women who look up to you because what you've been able to achieve and what you represent, and that is very important. So did you realize that you have become a focal point for many women to look at and say, you know, we want to be like that?
Well, it was never my goal. My goal was always to do a really good job and to prove to my board of directors, to the different levels of government, that I'm someone that, you know, can't be ignored. That I have great ideas to build this city, to build the Board of Trade, and to make sure that business, the private sector matters, that we're driving the economy. But I've learned, you know, and especially in the past 10 years, especially during the pandemic, you know, that people do look up to me, and that I have a responsibility, just like you, Shushma. People respect you so much in our community, but in generally, you know, people have called you a media maven. And but certainly, you know, I have a role and responsibility in the community to ensure that I'm harnessing and speaking to our young leaders.
And when you look at the area that you are responsible as far as economic growth is concerned, you must have noticed that the most hardworking people in that area happen to be people from our community. And innovative. Young women are just amazing. I mean, when I am doing Women in Focus, I am always looking at, you know, who's the CEO of a bank or you know, a credit union or something like that, and you always find South Asian women, you know, standing out in those fields. So looking at the community that we both belong to, how proud are you of that community?
I'm very proud. Women have come a long way. And yes, we still face challenges. And you know, I think sometimes people think, you know, we get these leadership positions because people are trying to be inclusive, or we're trying to, you know, meet some kind of DEI requirement. But we're in these positions because we matter. We've made it. We've done great things, and we're going to continue doing great things for our community. And all of our South Asian leaders, or our female leaders especially, you know, they have worked really hard to get to where they are. And that cannot be ignored, it cannot be forgotten. And I think I see great things for our community.
I'm going to ask you a question you might not want to answer, but let's just go ahead with it. The Surrey area where the mayor is standing on one side and the police, the province is standing on another side. We've got RCMP and we've got Surrey Police. How difficult is it to choose one over another?
Well, for me and the Surrey Board of Trade, you know, we took a look at it from an economic lens.
Yes.
And our mayor, Brenda Locke, is right in her approach.
Yes.
I know many people disagree with that, and they say, you know, just get on with it with the transition. But I think in 5 years, people will recognize that she was right. You need wraparound services for any police service, you know, to treat people with individualized mental health needs, those that are drug addicted, wraparound supports for youth, and we don't really have any of that in Surrey. We're so behind in terms of our infrastructure, not only related to public safety, but also education, transportation, healthcare. But when we saw Mayor Locke, fighting for the RCMP, from our perspective, from an economic lens, where businesses bear the greatest burden of taxation,
Yes.
we're going to see businesses pay for this police force. And yes, the BC government is giving us money, or the city of Surrey money, I should say, but it's going to cost way more than what is projected.
Anita, I want to take a short break, but come back and talk about the future of Surrey, and also, your vision and where do you want to go. And the guy that you eventually married and are making, your life with him, a little bit about that as well. But let's take a short break.
Okay.
Get the program paid for.
Sure.
Anita Hubberman is our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus today is Anita Hubberman, who was the CEO of Surrey Board of Trade for such a long time, and that's the only way I saw you. I mean, a powerful person who did not feel threatened by making your views known about any topic. So, one question about Surrey, and then we'll move on to other things. Where do you see Surrey going?
Well, Surrey is going to be the largest city in British Columbia in 5 years.
Okay.
But I feel we're not ready to be that large city just yet. There's a
Because?
lot that needs to be done.
Okay.
We need more hotels. We need more tourism, destination assets. We need transportation infrastructure to get around within Surrey. We need more healthcare infrastructure. We only have one hospital really that serves our community.
Right.
And when it comes to education,
Right.
we really need to make sure that our young people, a third of our population is under the age of 19, and many of them are being educated in portables. That's not quality education.
Yeah.
We need to ensure that we're really building up the pride of our city. But I see potential, and we really need to ensure that we're working together with all levels of government and the private sector, giving them the tools they need to drive the economy locally in our city, to ensure that they're able to build the infrastructure quickly. And it is possible, but right now restrictive.
You should get into politics. When you were studying at SFU, and economics was your main.
It was actually, my major was communications.
No kidding.
With a minor in European history. Of course, I started off in business, but
Yeah.
I transferred to communications.
So no, you communicate really well. So that's good. You could have been a broadcaster as well.
True.
But how good are you with numbers?
Well, I think I'm good with numbers. I mean, certainly when you're in the not-for-profit sector, you're
Yeah.
having to fight every single day, bring that money in.
Right.
With my amazing team that I have, my staff. But you have to run a not-for-profit like a business.
Right.
And so, but you need to surround yourself with people that, know the numbers, can analyze it too. But you also have to be creative in bringing that money in. So I think I'm good with numbers, but I'm not an expert like an accountant like my mom.
How easy was it for you to continue being the CEO of Surrey Board of Trade, one of the largest municipalities in Lower Mainland, and also your private home life?
Well, so I was president and CEO for 18 years.
Yes.
Unprecedented in our industry. And when I gave my notice on
Yes.
June 26, 2024, my husband said to me at the end of the day, he said, "I finally have my wife back." And he's looking forward to the next chapter of our life, whatever that may be. But, my husband, Ron, is an amazing partner. And he's always supported me. He's gone to all of the events,
Yes.
or most of them at least.
Yes.
And he's always been my sounding board.
Yeah.
So through the good times, through the bad times, he's very creative himself. He's an entrepreneur. He's had several businesses. And I met him, you know, through the Board of Trade as well.
Really?
At different networking events, we would meet each other.
Right.
And his brother was on our board of directors a long time ago.
Right.
So we've been together for 24 years.
So when you brought him home, what was your mom's reaction?
Well, she was really happy. You know,
Okay.
I think they were trying to get to know each other. It's two very different cultures
Yes.
melding each other. So my husband's Jewish.
Yes.
You know, I'm Hindu.
Yeah.
And it's very different. And but they love each other. In fact, my mom speaks more to my husband than she does to me.
Don't mothers do that?
Yes.
They like their daughters' husbands much better than their daughters because, you know, I mean, you know, that just goes without saying. Anita, you are at not a crossroads, but you have deliberately brought yourself in a position where you can look at the whole world
Yes.
and choose what you want.
Yes.
And that's your oyster.
Yes.
So, which way are you inclining to go?
Well, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
I'm exploring options, and anything is possible. You know, I think if I didn't have the courage to resign,
Yes.
then I wouldn't have been able to explore these different options that are
Right.
before me. And so I'm glad that I did it, and we'll see where the future takes
Where
me.
do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I'm not sure. I mean, certainly it could be a combination of the private sector.
Yes.
You know, it could be political.
Yes.
But we'll see. You know, I have to explore these options and really think hard about what's right for me and for
Yes.
my family.
And your vision.
Yes.
Because I think you are vision driven.
Yes.
And so it probably has something to do with how you see what you want to see in the future,
Yeah.
that you can contribute towards it. And I wish you all the best for whatever you have decided to do. And I think strong people like you are the ones that we need in our community, especially in our community for women, to look at you and say, yeah, I'm in a very comfortable position, but I am ready to take a chance and risk taker. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being our Woman in Focus today.
Thank you.
Anita Hubberman has been our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back.